A dad brought home a new invention, a robot that slaps people when they lie. He was excited to test it during dinner. Dad: "Son, what did you do after school today?" Son: "I studied for my exams." Slap. Son: Okay, I played video games at Jake's house." Dad: "What game?" Son: Minecraft." Slap. Son: "Fine, we were watching adult stuff." Dad: "What? At your age, I didn't even know that stuff existed." Slap. Mom burst out laughing. "Well, he definitely gets it from you." Slap. For sale, slightly aggressive truth robot, used once. May come with family issues. One ... For 20 years, my wife nagged me about one thing. Just put the cap back on the toothpaste. So for our anniversary, I made a vow. No more cap drama. For a whole week, I was on it. Cap on. Every single time. I was waiting for praise, a smile, maybe even a trophy. Nothing. Then last night, she squints at me and says, "Why haven't you been brushing your teeth lately?" Marriage. It's not for the weak. A new retirement home had just opened in the community, with separate floors designated for men and women. After the first few weeks, the staff gathered all the residents in the recreation room to go over the house rules. The main rule was made clear. No men were allowed on the women's floor, and no women were allowed on the men's floor after hours. Any violations would result in fines, $25 for the first offense, $50 for the second, and $100 for the third. Suddenly, a hand shot up from the back of the room, and a voice asked, "How much for a season pass?" 3 dots. A young couple. Before and after marriage. Before marriage. Woman: "Will you ever leave me?" Man: "No. Don't even think about it." Woman: "Do you love me?" Man: "Of course." Woman: "Have you ever cheated on me?" Man: "No. How could you think that I would do something like that?" Woman: "Will you kiss me?" Man: "Every time I get the chance." Woman: "Will you hurt me?" Man: "Are you insane? I'm not that type of person." Woman: "Can I trust you?" Man: "Yes." Woman: "Oh, darling." After marriage. Just read before marriage from bottom to top. Nanga. There was an Asian woman married to an English gentleman, and they lived in London. She wasn't very proficient in English, but managed to communicate with her husband. The real challenge came when she had to shop for groceries. One day, she went to the butcher and wanted to buy pork legs. Not knowing how to ask, she became a bit flustered and gestured to her thighs. The butcher understood and gave her the pork legs. The next day, she needed chicken. But again, she didn't know how to ask. She unbuttoned her corset to show a little more, and the butcher understood, giving her the chicken. On the third day, she needed sausages. Unable to communicate again, she decided to bring her husband along. Piss. What was she thinking? Her husband speaks English. Punch. Fred the farmer had a demanding wife who made his life a constant challenge. The only time he found true peace was when he was out in the fields, tending to his crops. One day, while Fred was hard at work, his wife brought him lunch. As he quietly enjoyed his meal, she unleashed a barrage of nagging complaints. Suddenly, Fred's old mule kicked up its hind legs and struck her in the head, killing her instantly. At the funeral, the pastor noticed an interesting pattern. When women offered their condolences, Fred nodded his head up and down. However, when men approached to express their sympathies, he shook his head, side to side. Curious, the pastor asked Fred afterward, "Why did you nod at the women but shake your head at the men?" Fred replied, "The women all said how lovely she looked and how beautiful her dress was, so I nodded in agreement. But the men kept asking, 'Is that mule for sale?'" Once a husband came home late after drinking. He rang the bell. Wife. Where have you been this late? I'm not opening the door. You can sleep outside tonight. Nearby, there was a well. Husband. If you don't open the door, I'll jump into the well. Wife. Do whatever you want. I won't open the door. The husband picked up a big stone and threw it into the well. The wife quickly opened the door and rushed towards the well. The husband entered the house and locked the door. Wife. Open the door or I'll shout and get people to gather here. Husband. Let them gather. I'll ask you in front of them where you're coming from so late dressed like that. Sod the shumlove. The wife served breakfast to the husband and also handed him a tablet, saying, "Take this paracetamol after breakfast." Husband. Why? I don't have a fever. Wife. All right, then take this Digine. Husband. Come on. I don't even have gastric trouble. Wife. Okay, take this Pudenhara. It'll give you immediate relief. Husband. My dear, my stomach is perfectly fine. Wife. Oh, but you should at least take Combiflam. Any pain in your hands or legs will disappear in no time. Husband. Are you crazy? Why all this sudden care and concern for me? Thanks, darling, but I'm totally fit, fresh and energetic. Wife. Very good. Now take this broom and clean the cobwebs in all the rooms, and don't forget the loft too. Yet a travel agent glanced up from his desk to see an elderly couple gazing longingly at the posters of glamorous travel destinations in his shop window. Something about their wistful expressions stirred a rare sense of generosity within him. Feeling charitable after a good week of business, he called them into the shop. I can tell that, on your pensions, a holiday like these might seem impossible. But I want to send you both on a fabulous vacation, all expenses paid. And I won't take no for an answer, he said with a smile. The couple, surprised and overjoyed, graciously accepted the kind offer. The agent immediately asked his secretary to book 2 flight tickets and reserve a room in a luxurious 5-star hotel. A month later, the little old lady returned to the shop. How was the holiday? The agent asked, eager to hear about their experience. The flight was thrilling and the hotel room was absolutely beautiful, she replied. I came by to thank you for your generosity, but one thing has been puzzling me. What's that? He asked. Well, she said, leaning in. Who was that old bugger I had to share the room with? 9. Mr. Wallace, an elderly man living in a nursing home, seemed unusually down one day. Nurse Tracy noticed his sadness and gently asked if something was bothering him. Yes, Nurse Tracy. Mr. Wallace sighed. My private part passed away today, and I'm feeling really sad about it. Understanding that some of her patients could be a bit forgetful or quirky, she sympathized. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Mr. Wallace. My condolences. The next day, Mr. Wallace was walking down the hallway with his private part hanging out of his pajamas. Surprised, Nurse Tracy quickly stopped him. Mr. Wallace, you can't walk around like that. Please put your private part back in your pajamas. Mr. Wallace shook his head and replied, But Nurse Tracy, I told you yesterday my private part died. Yes, I remember, she said, confused. But why is it hanging out now? With a grin, Mr. Wallace exclaimed, Well, today's the viewing. But late one night, an elderly lady called 911. 911, what's your emergency? Asked the dispatcher. There are 2 men rummaging through my shed, she replied. The dispatcher responded, It seems like a breaking and entering situation. We'll send an officer, but it'll take about an hour. The old lady, clearly upset, said, An hour? They're breaking in right now. Sorry, ma'am. No officers are available immediately. We'll send someone in an hour, the dispatcher replied. Frustrated, the old lady hung up. A few minutes later, she called 911 again. 911, what's your emergency? The dispatcher asked once more. I'm the woman who called earlier about the break-in, she explained. Don't worry about sending anyone now. The men are unconscious. Suddenly, within minutes, police cars filled her yard, officers quickly apprehending the suspects. The commanding officer, puzzled, approached the old lady and asked, Ma'am, I thought you said you shot the men. She smiled and replied, And I thought the dispatcher told me no officers were available. Padinundre? A husband and wife are in bed, getting cozy, when the wife suddenly pushes him away and says, Actually, I don't feel like it tonight. Could you just hold me instead? The husband, clearly frustrated, replies, What? Why can't we ever just have some fun? The wife responds, This is so typical. You have no idea what it's like to be a woman. You just don't understand me. She then turns over and goes to sleep. The next day, the husband feels bad and decides to make it up to her. He says, Let's go shopping. Pick out whatever you like. They head to a high-end store, and the wife tries on several outfits. She struggles to choose, so the husband says, Take them all. She's thrilled and gives him a big hug. Next, they stop by the jewelry section. She admires a pair of diamond earrings, but the husband says, Let's do better. He gets her a tennis bracelet worth twice as much. Feeling like she's had the perfect day, they head to the cashier. But then the husband turns to the cashier and says, We've changed our minds. Could you put these back? The wife, shocked, asks, What's going on? The husband smiles and says, You thought I was buying all this? No, I just wanted you to hold them for a while. Now you know how I felt last night. A man brings his best buddy home for dinner, unannounced, at 7:30 p.m. after work. His wife, caught off guard, starts venting while his friend quietly listens. Wife: The house is a mess. The dishes aren't done. I'm still in my pajamas, and I didn't plan to cook tonight. Why on earth would you bring him home without telling me? Husband: Well, he's thinking about getting married, and I promised him a demo. Padimundre. A blonde went into an internet cafe to send a message to her mother overseas. When the man told her it would cost £30, she exclaimed, I haven't got any money, but I'd do anything to get a message to my mother. The man arched an eyebrow. As we would expect. Anything? He asked. Yes, anything, the blonde promised. Well then, just follow me, said the man as he walked towards the next room. The blonde did as she was told and followed the man. Come in and close the door, the man said. She did. Now get on your knees. She did. Now take down my zipper. She did. Now go on, take it out. She reached in and grabbed it with both hands, then paused. The man closed his eyes and whispered, Well, go ahead. The blonde slowly brought her mouth closer, and while holding it close to her lips, tentatively said, Hello, Mum? Can you hear me? 14. While out one morning in the park, a jogger found a brand new tennis ball, and seeing no one around it might belong to, he slipped it into the pocket of his shorts. Later, on his way home, he stopped at the pedestrian crossing, waiting for the lights to change. A blonde standing next to him eyed the large bulge in his shorts. What's that? She asked, her eyes gleaming with lust. Tennis ball, came the breathless reply. Oh, said the blonde sympathetically, that must be painful. I had tennis elbow once. 15. A few years back, Andy was sentenced to prison. During his time inside, he earned a great reputation. Friendly with guards, helpful to inmates, just an all-around decent guy. The warden took notice. He arranged for Andy to learn a trade, and Andy took up carpentry. 3 years later, Andy had become one of the best carpenters around. He was even trusted with weekend passes to do jobs in town, and he always came back before curfew on Sunday night. One day, the warden, who had been renovating his kitchen, asked Andy for a favor. "I've done most of the work myself," he said, "but I need help building the cabinets and a countertop. Think you could do that for me?" Andy paused, looked the warden in the eye, and said, "Gee, I'd love to help. But counterfeiting is what got me in here in the first place."